So thanks for joining me today. This is the fifth session, so the fifth week that we've met, and the topic today is to create modules and structure. So I'm sharing my screen, and on the left-hand side, it still says coming soon, even though it's fairly built out. I wanted to find a few more resources to really flesh this topic out fully, but for now it will suffice. So basically, when you create a Canvas course and you're teaching and using Canvas, you control the pathway that students move through your course more so than I really feel like you do in a system like Blackboard. So that's one of the perks of moving to this system. Canvas really does give you that ability to craft the student experience. And a couple of ways that we do that. So I'm going to minimize that list a little bit and make my course a little bit bigger. So I'm still working on the Pilates course for nursing and health professions. And I've got some options that I can customize this course menu. So if I go to settings, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, but I'm just going to revisit it. I get this whole page of choices. And everything that's at the bottom, so there's this bottom drag items here to hide. This is all the stuff that I'm not using. So if I want to use any of this, all I have to do is drag it up above that threshold and put it in the order that I'd like. So you just drag and drop and then scroll back to the bottom and click save. And that is how we control the course navigation. So then students can see, all of these links that aren't hidden and get to what they need to do. So that's something to keep in mind. That's our first method of control. I'm actually going to drag Badger back out of here because I'm not really going to use it. And I did just get this question this morning. I want to use StudyMate. How do I do that? And did my StudyMate come over from Blackboard? And all you got to do is drag it up, save, and then click on that link that would then be in the course navigation, and you can log back in to get your StudyMate access. So that's something to keep in mind. If it's already put into Canvas, you can get that product here. Now, if it's not already installed into Canvas, then there's a little bit more to it over here in the app section. But for giving students access, everything up here, they're going to be able to click on and get to. So your course is going to come with a few things by default, and then you can customize that fully to what you need to have. So make sure you click save, because if you do anything on this page and leave, you will lose that work if you don't save it. So that's really the first method, and it's very basic. So I'm going to just click on preview so I can stop having my editing pop up on there. The second thing we're going to talk about is modules. So you can do some control with your course menu, and then in modules, you're going to control the entire structure of the course. And everything that you create in Canvas can be added into a module. Everything from documents to links to assignments, discussions, quizzes, you name it. If it's in Canvas, it can be added to the module. And basically, you're just going to have a module as a bucket, and anything you want to put inside is individual items, and that will craft your course into something like a book. And what do I mean by that? Well, this first item at the top of the page, when I open it, I can read what's on here, and then at the bottom I have a next button, and that is taking me to the next item that's listed in the modules. And I can keep clicking through, and it will literally go through every single thing that is listed down the entire module page. So it really does control the structure. If you were a person in Blackboard who liked to do the modules backwards so that the end of the course was at the top, that would not make a lot of sense in Canvas, because the next and previous buttons would then be taking the students backwards, and that would probably be very confusing. So something to keep in mind. They do get to control being able to minimize as they work through. So, really, we have a lot of opportunity here. Now, one of the things that I will show you is this blueprint comes with some of this course orientation for students. This is a quality component everyone is encouraged to have within their course, so they're given the foundation to be able to build that out. Most of it's going to come from your syllabus. It would probably be a matter of copy and pasting a little bit, but you can always use this page to maybe be a little more conversational than the terminology that you would just have in your basic functional syllabus. So this is, and you can also add some video or some text and pictures. So lots of opportunities here to craft these pages how you want to see them. To add another module, it's going to be just like all the other features in Canvas. There's going to be a plus module button, and it pops up asking you to give it a name. And I'm going to say example module. You can lock your modules to release at a certain date and time. So if you like to control the student's progress, you can say, I only want module 1 to finally open on Monday at 8 a.m. and then module 2 would open, the next week, or however your course is specifically structured. So a lot of people like to do, say, if you're studying cases, case number 1, it lasts 3 days. That's a week and a half. So you really have the ability to customize. Well, the second case is going to open on Wednesday, so you can control it. And if you uncheck it, that goes away. You also have the option to do prerequisites. So if I add a prerequisite here, I can say that the course orientation has to be completed before the students can do the example module. So it's a prereq. You have to do this before that. And then you can always use the X to take it off if you change your mind. Now, once there's some information in here, you'll have another option that I'm going to show you in a few minutes called requirements, but just bear with me while we get to it. So I'm going to click add module, and you're wondering, where did it go? It's all the way at the bottom. So everything new that's added pops up at the bottom of the page. And that's where collapsing your modules can come in really handy when you're building a course, because you can kind of condense what you're looking at and move things around a little bit more easily. So I've condensed all of my modules, and now I'm just looking at the big boxes that are full of stuff. And I can drag and drop. So if you don't right click, you can drag and drop and put them in the order that you want. You also, if you're having trouble with the mouse, can use the more menu over here. If you click those 3 dots, and you can move the entire module, or you can move contents that are within the module. So if I want to move this entire example module, and I can move it after, and then I can select, maybe I want it between weeks 3 and 4. And it will just pop it right down there. So lots of ability to control the order. Then you can also add all of your materials. So like I had said, the course orientation for students comes with some stuff. Maybe I want to start with my example module and create, using the plus button, maybe I want to put an assignment here, or I want to add some pages. Well, the drop-down menu is going to give you all your choices on what you can add. The assignments will then list all of the assignments that are built, or give you the option to create a new one. So keep that in mind. Quizzes, same concept, any that are built, as well as create a new one. You can do links to your course files. If you have very few files, this is a completely reasonable way to add them to a module. Otherwise, you might want to think about making a page if you have multiple documents, right? So if you've got lots of stuff to look at, that might be chunked and categorized onto a page a little bit better. Adding individual links down your modules can get a little cluttered, and it's not very student friendly. So that's where pages can come in and help us manage those larger amounts of information. So I can scroll down and select. It's going to tell me all my different names of my folders, and it probably looks a little unusual to you because it's not your course, but once it's your material, it's not quite as foreign. It's a little bit more familiar. You can add pages, again, anything that's in the course, or you can create a new one. Discussions, same concept. And then you also have these bottom three options. This is going to be a text header, which would just be words on the page. I'm going to do as an example. Just words on the screen. It's just a header, and I'm going to say add. And it just literally lets you maybe break up your information and use it to communicate with your students a little bit better in the module area. So that is a text header. And then, and dragging and dropping can be a little finicky. So just be patient with the browser that you're using, so they all act a little bit differently. And don't forget that you can come over and use the opportunity to move these around with your buttons over on the other side. So for example, I can say move to, and I can move this header up into my course orientation. I can choose where I want it to be located. So I want it to go before my about my instructor, and I can say move that up there, and it will just hop right over to where I wanted it to go. There was also two additional options, so we'll talk about that. The external URL, anything you want to link to out on the internet, you can do so. So say you want to send some students over to a website, you can put that here. If you do the external URL tool in this space, I highly recommend you click load in a new tab. And what that will do is that will open the entire website outside of Canvas into its original environment. Whereas if you chose not to load in a new tab, it will add the item within the Canvas space, and that can make it difficult for students to navigate through the website. Sometimes it just doesn't work as well. And then this last option, external tool. So when you choose external tool, just like on the rich content editor, when you had the electric plug for the apps, you've also got the external tools listed here, and you can kind of scroll down and see a lot of your different options, Khan Academy, or even Office 365 for OneDrive, and YouTube down at the bottom. So we've got lots of different choices here. And you can select those and give various information to put it on the page. So I added this to show you. I can also delete it. So it says remove, but because it's a text header, it really is going to delete it because it's not anywhere else in the course. And I do want to remove it. And then of course I can remove or delete the entire module. So I'm going to say delete. And I'm going to actually take a look at my week 1, and I'm going to show you some options here. So if I click edit, because I have some content already in this module, I have the requirements section. So I can say here that I don't want my module to open until the first week of class, which is going to be the 10th. And I want students to be able to start at 7 o'clock in the morning, but no earlier. And then I'm going to have a prerequisite. They're going to need to do the course orientation for students before they get to start this module. And the requirements I'm going to select from. So they must complete all is what it's default selecting. I can say they have to do it in order or not. And then I can also select some or more. So if I want to say I want to choose for this module, they need to absolutely complete the week 1 journaling assignment. I can say that. It can either be view, it could be that they submit the assignment, or it could be just marking it as done or getting at least a certain score. So you've got a lot of control over what the student will be able to do and how they will progress based on how you choose these selections. And then of course, if you change your mind, you can come in and delete them, and you can always add more than one. So you can make them as complex as you possibly want to. Just make sure that if you do something complicated, that students have clear instructions, or they might have a lot of questions for you on why can't I see something I'm trying to find. So I'm going to take these off and unlock it, and I'm going to say update. Okay, so that's really your control, your ability to put things in order, and the order down the page is going to create those next and previous buttons connecting all the materials. You've got the ability to mess with the appearance a little bit. You can increase the indent and make a hierarchy that's a little bit more visually clear to students. You can copy anything that you make. You can copy the entire module, or you can copy just one item to another course. So if you want to share information with your colleagues, you guys can just be enrolled in each other's course using the colleague role and share away.
Melissa, can I ask you something real quick?
Absolutely.
What's the recommended way to add like a lecture capture? Would that, I mean, if you go hit that add assignment or whatever, would it be like an external tool that we're linking back to Kaltura or 365, or what's the right way to do it?
So Kaltura is going away, so that won't be an option anymore. But let's just say you recorded in Zoom, right? And you got the Zoom recording, you decided to put it in Microsoft Stream, and you're like, okay, now I'm just going to share it with them. The answer, there's two ways. You can use the option to add a link. So inside here, you can just say external URL, and you can put that video's link here. And then that would just create exactly what you've added onto the screen. But if you've got a lot of stuff, you can just kind of think about the instructional design a little bit more. Like describe to me how, like what other stuff is in your course? Like paint a fuller picture.
I mean, in each module, I'll have like a lecture capture and a quiz and an assignment would be like one module.
Okay, so if that's all you've got going on and you're doing most of maybe your content delivery in another way, then you having 3 links per module for those 3 things is perfect. Now, for some people, they use pages. So if you have a lot of stuff to say and you want to give context and type on the page, add images, and then put your video here on a page, you can do that as well. So it kind of just depends on your preference, obviously, but let me show you. I'm thinking about where I have to show you a video. So if I come in to Office 365, and I did not mean to click this. And I'm going to come down to stream because I have some videos saved there. It always takes a little bit to load, but I'm going to go to my content and I'm going to go to my videos. And I have a lot, right? So some of these are not shared with everyone, so they're visible to private. Some of them I've shared, you can share with a specific group of your students. This is where you would come in, you'd say my groups, you'd find your course, you'd share the video here. And then you'd be able to say, okay, I want to share it. And you've got the option to get this link. Well, this link for the URL is how you would put it directly on the module. So I'm going to show you that way first. I'm going to say, add an external URL. I'm going to paste that link right there. It's going to be called week 1 lecture video. I'm going to say I want it to load in a new tab, and I'm going to add the item. So it's going to, by default, it's not published. So that's why it's kind of grayed out, and I can check publish. And then when I click this, it's going to want to open in a new browser window, and give it just a moment. And then they can play the video here. So that's one way. The other way is I can go back, instead of getting this link, I can say embed. I can copy the embed code, and then I can edit a page in Canvas to put the video directly into my course, which would be probably more preferred, just depending on how you do it or how you prefer to do it. So once I embed that and I save it, then they actually don't go anywhere. They just open up this page and they push play right here on the screen. So that's a really good question. It's a personal preference. I do recommend embedding if you have the opportunity. It's a little bit more user-friendly to not send them elsewhere.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Melissa, can I ask you a quick question, because I'm not nearly as advanced as Joanna? And you said something that kind of made me think. I know that in our summer course that's coming up, my co-teacher and I, we're going to probably need to record a lecture because the faculty or the expert that we want to get isn't available on the day that we would normally have class, and we're doing class via Zoom.
Mhm.
So if we had them recorded ahead of time via Zoom, do you put it in stream because of the fact that it saves it? Because after a while it goes away in Zoom if you don't save it? Or why would you put it in stream, I guess, and then upload it to Canvas versus just providing the Zoom link?
So the Zoom is only going to save it for 30 days, I believe is the policy. And Stream does not, it doesn't go away after a given time. I mean, honestly, you also have YouTube as an option. So this is how I do it. I'm recording this session with you guys right now. There is 75 other people in the School of Nursing and Health Professions who might need to see this, but they're not able to attend. Same concept you're trying to do.
Right.
I have clicked record. I've got it recording to my OneDrive so that after I end the meeting for everybody, it's going to process. I then take that video, I upload it to YouTube so that it's going to get closed captioned. And then I do the embed from YouTube into my course. So that's where at the bottom of every page, I've got a video stuck right there for all the people who couldn't make it. So yeah, that's really the best practice way. You could, explore other options. You've got Echo 360, Microsoft Stream, and YouTube are going to be the top for your school. And then short videos, let's say that it's not an entire lecture, it's about 10 minutes. You've also got Canvas Studio. So that's the option right here built in. Excuse me. Does that clarify?
Yeah, it does. I just didn't know if that was Microsoft Stream was where we should upload them, because they eventually go away on Zoom, but it sounds like any of those three are fine.
Yeah, so yeah, it's your personal preference. The pros and cons, using YouTube, if you just have a YouTube account and you upload stuff there, you can make it unlisted, you can make it private, right? Only people with the link can see it. So you've got a little control over that piece. But if you definitely want it to be secure and not something anybody could ever get a hold of, that's going to be Microsoft Stream. And it does do closed captioning for you just like YouTube would. So it's got you covered. You just have to give permission for students to be able to see it.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, lots of good questions. Video is one of the big topics. I went to a couple sessions last week on that one. So I'm gonna get back out of here. And we talked a little bit about adding this. I'm going to actually remove it because I don't think that Brittany would want my examples in her course. So I do try to clean up after myself. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about, you've got a lot of control and options in modules. You can rearrange, you can indent, you can add different stuff. You've got the settings to do requirements and prerequisites fully, depending on what the path you want students to take. You can drag and drop and put these in whatever order. Keeping in mind, it does create that next and previous buttons. So that's important that you put them in the order that you would logically expect students to move through the material. And then that you can, of course, add, remove, and delete. So when it comes to some of this information, this is the icon for a discussion board. This is the icon for a page. And I'm going to zoom in just in case it's too small for you, just so you can kind of get a real good close up here. So the little page has a little dog ear. We got the two text bubbles are the discussion. We are going to scroll down. We've got a pencil that's going to be an actual assignment. And then in week 2, I've got a rocket ship, and that's a quiz. So all these icons are telling me different types of material I've put in my module. When I come to this more menu ... it says remove. It's not going to delete that discussion board, assignment, quiz, or page from my course. It's only removing it from this module. So if you've got some stuff, teachers' notes between one another, or other things that you don't want to give students access, you can have it in your course and just not put it in part of the module. And then there's ways to make sure that they don't see it by keeping it unpublished or other ways that you can block people from seeing it. So it's really about removal, it's not deleting. To actually delete any of these items, you would want to go to the place that they were really housed. The discussions area, the quizzes area, the assignments area, or the actual pages area. So that's important to keep in mind. Removal versus deleting is different. And you also have the option to check your students' progress. So when you're in here and you've got actual students and people have gotten started working, it's pretty exciting. You can come up here and you can click view progress, and it will actually be listed and show you some information, those metrics on where they're at and how far they've progressed. So that is a nice feature. I don't have any sample students to show you, but I did put the link in the asynchronous resource to get to that topic. And there's some great screenshots showing you what it would look like if I actually had students and how I would be able to see in progress or completed and how they've moved through that material at that point. So that is really the full extent of your course navigation menu and your modules and your basic ability to control the structure of your course. The last part of this session, I'm going to take a pause to let you ask any questions from what we've covered so far. But the second half of this, I'm going to talk about mastery paths. And that's how you can basically control the release of content through scores. So how well they perform, they get access to different information. So are there any questions so far? Okay, everybody's quiet, so I'm gonna take that as a go.
Sorry, Melissa, I had a question. I was trying to fumble for my mute button.
That's okay.
This is not necessarily completely related to this, but will they be able to access Canvas via their phone? And does it look different via phone? And is the functionality there? Because I know in Blackboard, it's a little clunky phone version.
No, that's a great question. So we actually I just got out of a meeting before this session talking about the app and that it is substantially more robust than the Blackboard app. So that's a good thing. Now, what they see, they're going to have the basic functionality of the Canvas system, but the way you build your content on any of the pages or in the question area, there would be an impact on the mobile view. So it is something you need to keep in mind when you're building your information. If you put a table on a page, on the phone, they would have to scroll to the right and left to see all of that because it can't resize. So there's some cause and effect, obviously, in how you develop the way your course looks with your content. But as far as going in, being able to upload an assignment or complete a discussion and be able to interact and function, their phone is going to be just fine, and they are going to be able to do that. And there's a teacher app. There's a teacher app and a student app. So you also have mobile power.
So the like videos, when you just went over uploading videos, is there a preference for one versus the other?
So the same answer, I believe embedding is always the best choice. If you're going to shoot for excellence, embed on the page. When they open up their mobile app, they will see it and they'll push play. It functions exactly the same. So that's something to keep in mind. If you've got that link, yes, they're going to still be able to click the link. But again, you saw it took me 2 extra clicks to get it to open, and then I still had to push play. It's just not as smooth. So if your product lets you have an embed code, go ahead and use that embed option as the gold standard. Great questions. Happy to talk more. Any others? Okay, so let's talk about mastery paths. Now, I'm super excited. So if you're familiar with like adaptive release and setting up criteria to be able to release things, not just by date and time, and not just by you kind of checked off these other things so you can do this other stuff now, but your performance matters. Mastery paths is the tool for you. And so I'm basically going to use this week 1 and this week 2. And I'm going to show you how to set up just a very simple variable so that students who don't perform well on this, journaling assignment would get access to the week 1 extension resources. So if you make below a 75% on this assignment, you'll then be given access to extra information. So this is just one very basic example. So I would come over here to the week 1 journaling assignment and go to my ... and I would select mastery paths. And it takes it a second to load up. But by default, I've got, pretend like this didn't happen. I would have a 7 and a 4. And so it chooses these by default. I was in here earlier messing with it, and I actually wanted it to be 7.5. So I changed it earlier. And the reason why I picked 7.5 is because that's a 75% of my 10 points. And so the students who got anything within this area, I could say they get access to, for example, I'm gonna say they get access to quiz 2. Let's just say that that's the way I decided. If they do well enough, they can go straight to the next quiz. But, oh, actually, I said that wrong. Quiz 1 is in week 2, so a little bit different. So I'm gonna give them access to quiz 1. They make a high enough score, they just get to go take this one. This next one, I'm gonna say, I want the students who make less than 75% to have access to that page that I set up for week 1 extension resources. So I'm going to say add, and then I'm going to say for the students who make a 0, I also want them to certainly have access to it. And I can select that there. You can add and or multiple variables. You can really make this as complicated as you can imagine. And I'm happy to sit and work through all the details with anybody who wants to sort of think that through and map that out. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just setting up either you did well and you move on, or you didn't and you need to go to do these extra resources. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to say one more. No, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say save. And it brings me back to the week 1 journaling assignment because that's the item I had selected to add the criteria to. And now I just want to jump back into my modules because that's where I was working. So now I have the indicator that this week 1 is part of a mastery path. And that journaling assignment has, variable ties basically to this week 1 extension and with being able to do the Pilates quiz 1. So that's something to keep in mind. You get this opportunity to control and conditionally release content. Now that was like super, super basic, but you can imagine if you have, more complex thought out pieces and you've got all of your stuff laid out here, you could really come up with some nicely networked, if you do well, you get to maybe advance to some more challenging Pilates exercises. If you don't perform as well, maybe you get access to 3 basic videos to be able to practice. And you just really have a lot of control in the creativity of how students are moved through the material. Mastery paths is I feel it's one of the more complex features. So it's obviously going to take some thought and being able to sit through. It has quite a few really good detailed, you can see on this page here, just really detailed notes on explaining to you the cause and effect of how it all works. And, really just labeled pictures of going through. It's always going to be pulled from the points that an assignment is worth. And it is worth pointing out that if you want pages, so I had done a page of these week 1 extension resources. The way you control this, I'm going to right click and open it to show you that I edit my page, and you click this check mark to allow in Mastery Paths. So typically only assignments, discussions, things for points are going to be included, but you also can control access to regular content by going in and checking that you wanted to allow it in the Mastery Paths. I'm going to click cancel. So a lot of good possibilities. Any questions, thoughts, any question goes. So yes, we're here for modules and structure, but really any Canvas question, whatever your needs are. Okay, that is the end of today's topic. It's pretty straightforward. You have a lot of choices, but not really a whole lot of things for me to show you. It's pretty customized. I feel like your unique circumstances are really going to be the influential factor here. I will say, when you are adding calendar events and calendar items, wait to do all of that when you're in your actual course with students, because they don't copy the way you might think they will. So keep that in mind. And then, once you've moved everything over, you definitely want to click through and just do a quick quality check that everything's in the order that you wanted it to be, and set up for the student experience. And the student view button is really good for that, especially for checking, making sure you have everything published that should be published. If it's not published, they won't be able to see it. So that's something to keep in mind. If it has some sort of conditional release, that it will take that into consideration. So, I've locked this until graded because of that whole mastery path. And so it does a really good job of communicating to the students based on the settings that you've set into the course. And one other thing I can show you, just a little tip. If you have stuff you've created that is not published, clicking the whole module publish button will publish everything in the module. So you don't have to go one by one. But if you unpublish the module, it does not unpublish each item. So one of those interesting developer decisions.
So from a view perspective, the students wouldn't see week 1, but they'd see all the content? How does that work?
So actually, I don't think so. See, it just doesn't show them week 1 exists. So even though the stuff that's in there, if I come over here and I went to the assignments, like that assignment was it's in module 1. And so it's here on the assignments page. It's not going to be in the modules though. So the box is going to be hidden if this gray header part is unpublished, but the stuff still exists where it belongs. And if I don't want them to be able to get to it, this would not be the control I'm looking for. It would be the actual individual item. Make sure you turn that off.
Okay. That's pretty important to know.
Yes. And I really, when I'm building a course, I uncheck typically everything. If I'm not doing training sessions showing other people, everything would be unchecked until the very end when I have gone through and made sure it's all exactly how I want it to look. And as I finished really building it out, then I would be, acting like this is my to-do list, turning it on as I go. Yeah, great questions. I am happy to stay for the next 15 minutes, but that is the end of this topic, and I will add the recording at the end of the week, the same as the last 4 weeks. But this will be available on YouTube, and I'll send out that follow-up email so you make sure you have the link.
Thanks, Melissa.
You're very welcome.